All right. Yeah, it would be a bad look. This is Christian Pulisic. This is, your Captain America. What's the story going to be? Well, we just saw him running around and he looks great, and yet he's not with the national team. So I think it's really interesting the way that the USL is positioning themselves, the catnip that is Pro-Rel. Dare I say it, direct competition with MLS. An Argentina-Portugal final? Yeah, I mean, it writes itself. Hello, Sunshine. I'm Alexi, Lalas, and welcome to the State of the Union podcast, where we look at the beautiful game on and off the field through the lens of red, white, and blue-colored glasses. Now, this show, we'll be talking, AI coaching, Cherry Adams, the World Cup draw, MLS playoffs drama, the Dodgers, metalheads, USL president, cemeteries, and so much more. But first, joining us always, my friend, my colleague, my guiding light, David Mosse, a soccer savant and a Fox Soccer researcher and writer extraordinaire. Mosse, how you doing on this? What are we looking at? Monday, November 3rd in the year 2025.
I'm doing well, and you mentioned it, so let's go there first.
Okay.
We are in Los Angeles, surrounded by Dodgers fans, including some who work on this podcast, so we should congratulate them on their epic World Series triumph. I know you're not a big baseball fan, but did this hit your radar? It was absolutely incredible.
Sure. I just saw the numbers that we got here at Fox, 24 million or something like that. Who knows? It may be even more. So great numbers, great interest, even for someone like me that doesn't know a whole lot about baseball, doesn't care in the other 160, how many? 2 games? 5?
162.
162 games or anything. Yes, I was enthralled. I was into it just for the drama of it. And I'm certainly no expert. As I mentioned, this type of finish was something to behold.
There is a bar about a 10-minute walk from my apartment, which is one of the Michigan bars in LA where Michigan fans congregate to watch the games. I never go. I get the email invite every week, but I don't like watching my teams play in bars. This Saturday, because we were playing Purdue at home, which I thought would be an easy game, I figured, you know what? Why not? They have good food there. I'll eat some wings, drink some beers, watch Michigan play. So I went. Michigan actually played awful, but we still won. But then it rolled right into the World Series. When the Michigan game was over, it was like the 5th or 6th inning. They changed all the TVs, and you couldn't help but get sucked into that. Yeah. So I stayed through the end. I ended up spending like 6 hours at this bar. I drank a disturbing amount of beer. Nevertheless, I was there surrounded by Dodgers fans who were jumping on tables at the end. It was incredible.
2 things. One, you should definitely frequent this bar more. I feel like they would love you. I maybe do love you, so much so, I mean, there'd be a whole cheers thing where you walk in, Mosse, and you come in. 2, while the drama was undeniable in this World Series, and I think it will go down as one for the ages, you got to feel bad for, I mean, they're Canadians, so you don't have to feel that bad, but you have to feel bad for Toronto or anything like that. And Mosse, the level of nerddom, baseball nerddom that came out of this final game, the amount of people that felt the need to tell everybody about how deep in the weeds they are and knowledgeable they are about base running and whether you should slide, feet first or hands first, or how far you should be off the bag. It was a little ridiculous and a little hilarious from my part.
Our director, Gabe, is Canadian, Blue Jays fan. He attended Game 5 at Dodger Stadium. He sent me a picture from that. He looked very happy because at that point, the Blue Jays had wrestled control of the series. I have not spoken to Gabe since Saturday. I'm not sure how he's doing. I did on Sunday. I was taking a stroll through Brentwood, and I ran into John Marcus and his lovely wife. I met her. We chatted for a few minutes. He is a Dodgers fan, so he was very happy.
A lot of people are very happy. And no load management, right? They played that pitcher that just continued on, right? So he just continued on. They didn't have to worry about that. All right, so other than the baseball, did you watch or see or read anything you want to tell us about?
All I've got. I'm excited for Frankenstein, by the way, which is out on Netflix this upcoming weekend, I believe. But on the television front, it's a show called Down Cemetery Road, which is done by the same creators of Slow Horses. It was recommended to me by a listener of ours on X. I've watched the first 2 episodes. Very good.
Premise? Do we know?
It's a British crime drama. There was a crime, and these 2 women try to solve it.
In present day or
present day?
Okay, all right. We'll check that out. You got to let us know. I only have one thing. I've watched it over the last couple of weeks. It's called Into the Void. It's over on Hulu, and I love music docs, and this is 8 episodes, and it goes into much more metal type of history. But each episode deals with something different. For example, there's an episode on Randy Rhoads, how great he was, but also his untimely death. A band called NME, a band called Death, Hellion, female-fronted band, and what they went through. Wendy O. Williams from the Plasmatics, Judas Priest and the lawsuit that they had, Pantera and Dimebag and his murder. A band called Confess, which is an Iranian metal band. So it's all over the map when it comes to metal. But even if you don't like metal music, because I'm not a huge metal fan, there's some really interesting types of things there. So that's called Into the Void over there on Hulu. All right, should we light this candle, my friend?
Let's do it.
Where should we start?
Busy weekend across Europe. We're going to begin in the Premier League. Manchester City claimed a 3-1 home win over Bournemouth. 2 more for Erling Haaland, make that 26 in 16 games for club and country this season. But the good news from an American point of view, the Bournemouth goal came courtesy of Tyler Adams.
Yeah, it was nice, and I think there was an element of surprise. Not that Tyler Adams is a goal scorer; that's not what he does. But that this was his first EPL goal, and look, he was Johnny on the spot or Tyler on the spot right there, and it just dropped to him off of a set piece. Donnarumma did not have a good moment right there, and Tyler Adams said, "Thank you very much. I will tap that in. I will clean it up." And again, even with the lofty heights that Tyler and company have reached, this is still not necessarily a game that they're supposed to win. So from an American perspective, it was great to see him get a goal. He's already playing well. Knock on wood, he's healthy. That's not always the case with Tyler. His team's doing well. This isn't a strike against them. And not only are they playing a team that, for the most part, should beat them. You mentioned Erling Haaland, who is just flying right now and is unstoppable. But a nice little part of the game, obviously, was Tyler Adams playing well, and scoring a goal.
City moved up to second. They are 6 points back of Arsenal. Fulham distanced themselves from the relegation zone with a 3-0 home win over Wolves. Anthony Robinson unavailable again, and his replacement, Sessegnon, got one of the Fulham goals.
I'm not worried about him getting Wally pipped unless this injury really ends up being something problematic. And that's, I think, what we're all worried about. I was talking to producer Sean, who, by the way, is angst-ridden right now, because he's in the midst of possibly making a house purchase. We know how difficult that is and how stressful that is. So I hope it all goes well for him there. But we were talking about no Jedi, and it's just like we're on repeat now, where he's just not showing up. Again, still plenty of time for him to get back for next summer, and maybe they're just taking it slow here. Good thing is that the team is winning, but like I said, I don't see him getting Wally pipped. I still think that when he's healthy, he's an integral part of this team.
And this match spelled the end for Vitor Pereira, the Wolves coach, who was fired afterwards. Crystal Palace, a 2-0 home win over Brentford. Mateta got one of their goals. Chris Richards went all 90 minutes and played well, which was nice to see after he missed their midweek Carabao Cup win over Liverpool due to injury.
Yeah, I guess it's a phenomenon, but it's an understandable reaction that we all have because we talk about these players, and it's always with an eye to next summer. So if and when they go down, for example, Tyler Adams in that game went down, and he just got kicked, and thankfully he was up. But anytime these players go down, our wheels start to turn, and we think, uh-oh. And in particular, when it comes to someone like Tyler Adams, or in this case, someone like Chris Richards, who now is in pen as one of the starting center backs going forward, it's really just a question of who is going to, I guess, partner or pair, or who are the other two are going to be when they're playing in the back three.
We go to Spain next. Atletico Madrid, 3-0 home win over Sevilla. All the goals in the second half. Alvarez, Almada, and Griezmann. Johnny Cardoso, available on the bench, did not play, but it's the first time in weeks he's at least been on the matchday squad.
Yeah, so I guess, glass half full is that he is there. Speaking of producer Sean, do the kids say Stan anymore? I don't know, but he evidently not you so much. I think you're much more realistic when it comes to Johnny, but he's a Stan for Johnny. I still don't see it, although this is a nice thing in terms of heading the right way. Hopefully that leads to him playing, and then if he has any possibility, playing well and then getting back in the national team.
That's a term that Eminem entered into the lexicon, Stan. He had a song in the early 2000s about an obsessed fan.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you for translating that for all of our listeners and viewers that don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
We go to
I don't even know if they use it anymore. Okay.
We go to Serie A next. AC Milan, 1-0 home win over Roma. Pavlovic got the only goal. Dybala missed a penalty. Pulisic still out, but there's a chance he could come back next weekend against Parma. What's interesting about that is that Milan have requested that he not be called up for the November window, and there are reports that Pochettino is going to acquiesce to that request and leave him out.
All right.
The optics would be weird. He plays next week, plays well, scores a goal perhaps, and then he's out for the November games.
Yeah, and again, I recognize that travel can lead to fatigue or, additional games, and from a club perspective that they don't care about, doesn't mean anything to them other than the prestige of their players playing internationally. But yeah, it would be a bad look. And again, this is Christian Pulisic. This is, your Captain America, the best player for the U.S. team. We just went through all the stuff that happened this summer. And so, and I completely understand and I respect that when it comes to Pochettino or any head coach for that matter of a national team, there always is this give and take and this bartering that's going on. But man, I hope he plays for AC Milan, Christian Pulisic. I hope he gets back. I hope he's healthy. I hope he scores goals. I hope he plays the whole game, and I hope he's fit. But then, what's the story going to be? Well, we just saw him running around, and he looks great, and yet he's not with the national team. I don't know. Maybe it would be a bad look, and again, it would call into question, and that's unnecessary.
Serie A, by the way, I know it's early, but Napoli 22, Inter 21, Milan 21, and Roma 21. So 4 teams all bunched together.
That's
at
good,
the top.
but that's what you want.
Not the case in the Bundesliga, where Bayern are starting to pull away. Their latest victory, 3-0 at home over Leverkusen. Gnabry and Nicholas Jackson among the scorers. Malik Tillman did not play, but it sounds like he could be back for Leverkusen's Champions League game this week against Benfica.
Okay. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. The Bayern Munich machine, while it has had some, not hiccups, but some pretty close types of finishes over the years, there's still, when all is said and done, Bayern sitting at the top. So I know you're being a little facetious here, but we're in November of the season, and it's almost already sewn up for a Bayern Munich.
15 wins out of 15 in all competitions this season. But on the topic of the Champions League, they have a massive game. They are away to PSG this week.
Ooh. And when you're Bayern Munich, yes, you fight on multiple fronts, but all fronts are not created equally. And when it comes to what they are doing with the Bundesliga, notwithstanding what's happened, with the Dortmunds and a few others over the last years, they take care of business there. But they really ultimately are judged on what happens with Champions League. So this is delightful what's about to happen.
The other great Champions League game, Liverpool will host Real Madrid. That's a rematch of the 18 and 22 finals, and also 1981 for you Alan Kennedy fans out there. Former Liverpool midfielder Xabi Alonso now in charge of Real Madrid. So storylines abound. That's going to be a fun one.
Who do you got in that one?
Well, Liverpool got back in the win column this past weekend, 2-0 over Aston Villa. Salah and Gravenberch with the goals, so that gives them a little bit of confidence. But I still think Real Madrid goes in there and gets a result.
Really?
Yes,
I agree. I agree with you. I do think that Liverpool, this form of Liverpool right now, I think they have to be looking around and saying, is there a problem? But nothing would kind of fix that problem from a mental perspective more so than having Real Madrid come in and for them to beat Real Madrid. But if they lose to them, that would be a big moment right now, and maybe continue to lead to some criticism and some concern as to what Liverpool is this year.
Did you see that after that Carabao Cup loss to Crystal Palace, Arne Slot tried to cry poor? He said, we rotate our squad and we have a bunch of kids. Well, the Man Cities of the world can rotate and still put out strong lineups, and everybody, even Liverpool fans like Zach Kenworthy, were rolling their eyes. You just spent like £500 million in this last transfer window.
Yeah, I mean, coaches and managers, they're going to play this game where if it goes well, it's because they coached them up and what they did and everything. But if it doesn't, you didn't give me the right ingredients, and I don't make the decisions here. There's only so much that I can do. I get it. It's a game that they all play regardless of what level. But yes, it is a little, well, literally rich when it comes to that type of response there. But it's not going to change. They're going to keep doing that.
Man City are home to Dortmund. Erling Haaland facing his former club. And then on the American front, Marseille will take on Atalanta. Timmy Weah is back in training, so it sounds like he could feature in that one. And then in theory, Yunus Musa could feature, but it's several games now that he hasn't played.
I mean, it's his team in that it pays him. And it's the team that he is associated with. But let's see if he's actually going to play soccer for him going forward. But like you said, Weah back in training. And again, all these injuries we keep track of, and maybe we make a mountain out of a molehill, but it is concerning.
That's it for Europe. We transition to the MLS playoffs. Interesting weekend there. There was plenty of drama in Portland. San Diego had won game one, and they were leading game two 2-1, thanks to goals by Pellegrino and Chucky Lozano. So they were seconds away from advancing. But then Guerra with a header to equalize 90+8. And Portland prevailed on penalties. So that series will have a do-or-die game 3.
A lot of penalties when it comes to these MLS playoffs. And before we get into the actual games here, and we're not going to go through every single game, but the best of 3, because there's been some criticism as to whether this is the best format. And we know MLS is notorious, if you will, and historically has changed up as they have gone through to try to figure out what it is. I like the best of 3 scenario. Again, there's no aggregate or anything like that, so it's just the wins that you get. But I do think that it forces you to play. It forces teams not to pull back and to worry about letting goals in. And I also think that it gives a better representation of who the best team is. And I think that's important because so often we talk about almost the 2 seasons of the regular season and then MLS Cup Playoffs. And what happens in the regular season, I guess it sometimes dictates what happens later, but oftentimes it doesn't. And so I guess in fairness to these teams, you should want more opportunities to show that you are the better team as opposed to one opportunity where, stuff can happen. It just be that day when it's not going your way. But this gives you a little bit of an out and a leeway.
From the conference semis on, it is one opportunity, and we have our first confirmed matchup in that round, Vancouver, LAFC. Vancouver this past weekend, Dallas looked to be sending that series to a game 3. They led 1-0 through Mosse, but then Priso equalized in stoppage time. Vancouver prevailed on penalties, while LAFC cruised past Austin 4-1. Buanga got 2, Son and Abobasi each got 1. So LAFC looking very strong. Vancouver, LAFC, how do you see that one?
Yeah, I thought Vancouver was by far the better team, and they proved it on the field. And then absolutely LAFC was better than Austin. I mean, there was a look that came into the Austin players' eyes early on in the game with LAFC where they said, this is just not happening. They are on another level. And Buanga, for what he has been and now what he is, it's almost as if he's improved. Well, not almost. I think he has improved by the addition of Son. And as we said, that double whammy that they have. And when they get going, and I'm not just talking about those two, as a team, they recognize when they get going, they just chew you up. And the cutbacks from oftentimes the off wing of Denny Buanga and Son for that matter, they're just really, really good right now. And again, Steve Cherundolo, the head coach, this is his last stand for LAFC. There will be a new coach for LAFC come next year, and so we'll see how far he's able to go. Maybe he's able to take it all the way to MLS Cup.
In the East, one team is advanced, Philadelphia. They won 3-0 away to Chicago this past weekend. Baribo got 2, Damiani got the other. So Greg Berhalter's first season in Chicago is over.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a very stark and dramatic end to the season. And I'm sure it's painful for him and for the players, but he undoubtedly improved Chicago in terms of the actual results, getting them back to the playoffs. But I also think in terms of the way that we look at them and credibility, I think Chicago for a number of years has been irrelevant. And I think that he has brought them halfway or almost close to full way back to being relevant. And so I'm looking forward to what he builds on and what he has going forward. I'm sure it stings right now in the way that they went out and the way that they went out playing at home. But if you're looking at it as a process, and I know sometimes I'm as guilty as anybody else, we don't have time for the process. But if you are looking at it as a process, I think you have to give him the benefit of the doubt in that it is improved under Greg Berhalter.
And then we have 3 game threes to look forward to in the East. Columbus forced one by clobbering Cincinnati 4-0. Arston, Chambeau, Herrera, and Russell Rowe with the goals. Kubo got sent off. So Cincinnati and Columbus headed for a do-or-die game 3.
Yeah, hell is real, and it's back to game 3. As you mentioned, the red card, I think that fundamentally changed the game. But also, as I said, it also meant that Cincinnati still had something to play for and didn't necessarily have to go into a shell to avoid letting in goals because it ultimately didn't matter. But this is what you want for an interstate rivalry that has become so important and wonderful, even from the outside, those of us that aren't even in Ohio, to watch. So, and I think it's a toss-up when it comes to who goes through here. Even with the rankings at Columbus at 7 and Cincinnati at 2, and Cincinnati being at home, you'd have to give them the edge. But by the way, Max Arvston had a really, really good game in a much more advanced position. We've talked about the fact that with the national team, sometimes he's asked to do a whole lot more work and positionally a lot deeper and much more, for lack of a word, defensive. But when he gets going up top and the things that he can do out there on that left-hand side, scored a nice goal and really just kind of tore him a new one when it came to Cincinnati, and in particular after the red card.
Nashville 2-1 over Inter Miami. Surge and Bauer with their goals. Messi scored for Inter Miami. So that series headed for a game 3.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. Yeah, I mean, Nashville, I think, was ultimately the better team, but Messi doing what Messi does and at least making it interesting, and to have him wide open on his left foot at the top of the box and allow that, you can't do that. Because if you go back to Miami, Nashville, and you allow that to happen, but you give yourself a chance to go on. I don't think that Inter Miami is shaking in their boots right now, coming home and having to play with Nashville, but now it is that one game where stuff can happen. And I'm excited to see that. I still think Inter Miami finds a way to go through here for the Pink guys, but well done to Nashville for coming back and forcing that game 3.
And then NYCFC and Charlotte finished 0-0. Charlotte prevailed on penalties, so they force a game 3 in that series.
Yep, same thing. And all these games are relatively close, going to third games or involved in shootouts, and that's what you want to see. You don't want to see any types of blowouts, but there is some separation when you come to some of these teams. That is relative to what they did in the regular season.
And we're taping this on Monday afternoon. Later today, Seattle will host Minnesota in game 2 of that series. Finally, there's some USL news you want to talk about.
Yeah, so we've talked about USL and what they have planned for the future, including kind of a restructuring of their leagues, but more importantly, the implementation of Pro Rel. We come to find out that the USL has hired the EPL executive, Tony Scholes, to run the league. He is going to be the president of USL. Evidently, I think he's coming in at the end of the EPL season, so right before the summer, and I guess right before the World Cup, which is obviously coming next summer. I've said time and time again when it comes to the whole Pro Rel thing that I don't need it to enjoy my soccer. However, if and when somebody wants to come about and implement it for themselves, I will support it 100% in the form of a competitive product, which is, I think, the way that they are framing this. As a matter of fact, anytime you see Tony Scholes' name now, it's with this promotion relegation implementation that is going to come. And so I think it's really interesting the way that the USL is positioning themselves in, dare I say it, direct competition with MLS. Again, I don't think that MLS is fearful of USL taking over market share, and obviously they're in many different markets. But I do think that the catnip that is Pro Rel as part of this, and getting a undeniably talented exec to come over, they're heading in the right direction. And again, I will support this 100%, and I hope that it goes well, and I hope that it thrives, and I hope that it forces MLS to compete and do things, big, bold things that I've talked about before on and off the field going forward. That's what you want from competition. That's capitalism. These are, in essence, two companies that are selling the product of soccer, and we'll see which one comes out. Who knows? There's plenty of room for both of them to survive, but one of them, when it comes to USL here, has decided to do things in a different way. And I am interested, I am curious, and ultimately I am supportive because people kicking a ball is good. And how the business is structured is up to them. And may the best business win in this competitive environment.
It's definitely Scholes because it's spelled the same way as Paul Scholes.
All right, well, maybe it's Scholes then. All right, well, I'm calling him Scholes.
We'll get back to you on that one. That's it.
Anything else besides me mispronouncing Tony's name? All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it's time for Ask Alexi. Okay, welcome back. It's time for Ask Alexi, that part of the show where you send in your comments, questions, and concerns. Keep in mind that our hashtag out there on the old social media platforms is AskAlexi, and our handle out there on the old social media platforms is SOTU with Alexi. Or you can call into our State of the Union podcast hotline, which is 657-549-2297, 657-549-2297. Mosse, what do the folks want to know today?
We have a voicemail. Let's take a listen.
Hello, Lexi and Mosse. This is Spitz from DC, longtime listener, lover of the podcast, and smasher of the buttons. I just returned from Argentina to honor the memory of my mother-in-law who recently passed away. She loved life and loved the game and taught me about both. And while I was in Argentina, I spaced out a little bit and thought, what if the final was Argentina versus Portugal? Messi versus Ronaldo, and what kind of rating Fox would have. And the next space out led me to this question, which is there anything about going to D.C. and both of you guys being there for the draw, any hopes, expectations? Like, are you going to think about what groups we're in? And obviously through the USA lens, I've heard you guys talk about who we're going to play, but just in general, like, what are you guys thinking about that trip and adventure for the draw? Love the podcast. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Spitz from D.C. We'll get to the draw in a second, but going back to your potential Argentina-Portugal final. Mosse, let me ask you a question. From a American ratings perspective, obviously we at Fox, we broadcast to America. Would there be higher ratings for a Argentina-Portugal final, as Spitz mentioned, that would feature Messi versus Ronaldo, or a Argentina-U.S. final?
Argentina-U.S.
You think?
Yes.
You think more people would be interested in the home country, the U.S. here, and would flock than if it featured two of the greatest players in history finally meeting up in in a World Cup final.
I believe so. I'm not a ratings expert. We probably need Brad Zager to come on this pod and answer that question.
I would think the U.S., because people that don't even know anything about soccer might not know anything about Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi. Maybe there's some people out there that don't know that, but they would, because of the flag and because of the country and everything. I tend to think that's right. Now, would we like to see this? Yeah, that would be obviously, Spitz, I would much rather the U.S. be in it, but an Argentina-Portugal final, yeah. I mean, it writes itself. I guess, to a certain extent, it sells itself. And it would be used as a proxy, right? It would be used to almost define these two legends of the game. Now, Messi already has a World Cup, albeit with an Argentina team that I think, if you argued and compared and contrasted over the years, you would say has been better than the Portuguese teams that Cristiano Ronaldo has played for. But you are certainly very bullish about this Portuguese team, this version of it, as am I. So I would love to see it. And I think a lot of people would love to see it. And I think FIFA would love to see it. Before we talk about the draw, talk about this, possibility.
A couple things. I don't know if you saw, but Ronaldo just went on Piers Morgan's show.
Yep.
They've got a little like Aaron Rodgers, Pat McAfee thing going there. And he said he's better than Messi. So he reignited that debate. It was all over social media today. The race for 1,000 goals with those two is very interesting. Both are still scoring at an amazing clip. Ronaldo for Al Nassr and Messi, of course, for Inter Miami. Ronaldo is at 952. Messi is 60 behind. He's at 892. Messi is 2.5 years younger. He's played in fewer games. So Ronaldo presumably is going to get there first, but I think Messi has a good chance to get there as well. And he just signed an extension with Inter Miami through 2028. So it will likely happen with him playing in MLS for Inter Miami, which would be cool.
But in this argument, if there is one, if you feel there is one between who is better, whether you ask Piers Morgan or anybody else, I think the amount of goals, I just think it's kind of dumb. You can throw it out there, and I think I think you lose the argument, or your argument is hurt if you say, well, Ronaldo scored this many goals and Messi has scored this many. I don't look at that as a knock on either one of them, how many they've scored.
I agree with you. And it makes it interesting with Pele because, in early 1969, Pele was still 28 years old in the flow of his career scoring goals. Some statistician in Brazil came out of the woodwork and said, I've been crunching the numbers on it, and he's closing in on 1,000 goals. And the media picked up on it, made a big deal about it, so Pele went along with it. But at that time, nobody thought that it was because of the 1,000 goals that Pele was the greatest player of all time. And then over the years, as a younger generation of fans started questioning his GOAT status, Pele felt like he needed something tangible to point to. So he started bringing up the 1,000 goals a lot of interviews. And it was a mistake because it created this idea that if you can tear down the 1,000 goals, then you can tear down any notion of Pele being the greatest player of all time. And so modern statisticians have taken a hatchet to that number and shaved hundreds of goals off of it. So yeah, to your point, it's a nice milestone, but for none of these guys, Pele, Messi, Ronaldo, Ronaldo, though, he has made a lot of the back end of his career about goals. To a degree that I don't think Messi necessarily has. We talk about Messi as being this great all-around player. Ronaldo, it's more about the goal scoring. But even with Ronaldo, I wouldn't reduce his career to just how many goals he scored.
Exactly. And if you're going to fall on the Messi side, just from a soccer perspective, not necessarily the goals, you would say that Messi creates more for himself, but obviously creates more for others, finds positions on the field that Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't. And I guess as a pure goal scorer, he would probably fall on the Cristiano Ronaldo side. But again, that's not a knock on Messi. As a matter of fact, it can be positioned that the reason why you're doing that is because that's almost all that Cristiano does and focuses on, which is what has made him great. And Messi does more things in this back and forth. Now, when it comes to the draw in DC, December 5th, you will be able to see it here on Fox. If you were listening to this, by the time you listen to this, it'll be 30 days to go. So it is coming fast. We all know that the draw is a spectacle, but there is a seriousness that needs to be applied because it gets real, baby. It in the best possible way, in that you know what your groups are. Obviously, you know who you're playing. You know where you're playing, and you know the pathway to glory, especially if you're a team that's elite and has those types of vision. This draw in December in DC at the Kennedy Center will obviously be relative to a 48-team World Cup. Now, there will be a number of teams that will not have been decided by that time. We will cover it. Don't know exactly yet how we're going to do this, but we will let you know, and we will cover it from top to bottom. I've been involved in draws over the years. Back in 1997 for the 1998. I was in Paris with Sepp Blatter, and the bowls and the balls and all the angst and the worry of, is it fixed, and are the balls hot, and are they cold? I even did the Women's World Cup draw in New Zealand back in, I guess it would have been 2022 for the 2023 World Cup. And it is a production, and there's singing, and there's dancing, and there's rehearsals, and there's choreography, and there's drama, and the faces of the coaches and the managers when they see who they're ultimately going to face. I love a good draw show, and I think this is going to be one for the ages. I think FIFA recognizes that because it involves the United States and because of what the United States is, I guess, in entertainment, that they are going to kind of step it up. But we look forward to it come December 5th, and we will know. Well, we know the U.S. is playing their first game here at SoFi, their second game up in Seattle, and their third game back here at SoFi. We will find out, hopefully, who they are playing.
By the way, if you're curious to see how a 48-team World Cup feels, the U17 Men's World Cup is off and running in Qatar, and that's been expanded to 48 teams. So you can check out that. That's on Fox Sports. The U.S. is in a group with Czechia, Burkina Faso, and Tajikistan.
Oh, my goodness.
Which is a former Soviet republic.
Yeah, somebody asked me over on X about this 48-team World Cup, and I just want to reiterate that the reasoning behind this, yes, it makes more money. We all understand that, and we're not naive. But also, it provides opportunities, because they were talking about Uzbekistan, and the worry about some of these teams. It provides opportunities for some of these teams that have not been to a World Cup for that opportunity and for that experience and all that comes with it, the money that comes with it, the prestige that comes with it, the attention that comes with it, that then translates to hopefully that future generation. So we're looking forward to that. I don't think. I think there will be some confirmation bias when it comes to people that think that this is going to dilute the quality and you're going to have lopsided types of results. I don't think it's going to be because there's a 48-team World Cup. And I do think that even some of the first-timers, whether it's Uzbekistan or anybody else, are going to put on a good show, are going to make it competitive. I'm not saying that they're winning. I'm not even saying that they're getting out of the group. But they will still put on an entertaining performance and one that is worthy of your time and I guess worthy of people's money in terms of buying tickets.
You want to play a little Stump the Mosse?
Sure.
I can name the 15 republics that comprise the Soviet Union.
That did comprise the Soviet Union. Really? Okay. I'll count them for you.
Russia, Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, Belarus, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan.
Jeez. I mean, I've known you for so many years, and yet
The genesis of this was when we covered the 2018 World Cup in Russia. That sent me down a whole Russian history rabbit hole. One of the best books I've ever read. It's called Lenin's Tomb, written by David Remnick on the last days of the Soviet Empire. I highly recommend it.
We don't doubt that you go down these rabbit holes, but you going down a rabbit hole is very different than normal people going down a rabbit hole. And your ability to retain the information on a consistent basis. The recesses of your brain are just amazing. I would love to get in there. I don't know if I would ever make it out, but
what we've established is I have better knowledge of former Soviet republics than American goal scorers in the Champions League, because there's an embarrassing video circulating right now in which I struggle to name the top American scorers in the Champions League.
Well, you know what? This is going to be a segue, all right? Because as wonderful as you are, and as smart as you are, and as valuable as you are, the world is changing, my friend. And the machines and the robots are taking over. And the artificial intelligence that exists out there is taking over. I maintain that someone like you is always going to be of value. But there are others that would look at what you do, what I do, what others do as a dying art, and therefore as us as a dying breed. So with that, we will take another break, and we come back, we will delve into that concept. Don't go anywhere. Okay, welcome back. It's the end of our show, and at the end of each and every show, I give you my one for the road. And we got to thinking about the world in which we live in, and one of the things that got us thinking about it was a interview and comments from the Seattle Reign head coach, Laura Harvey. You might remember her. She was on, I guess, the short list when it came to the U.S. women's national team, and she's had a stellar career. And she was very open and honest about AI, artificial intelligence, saying that she had leaned on artificial intelligence, and in her case, it was ChatGPT, to help inspire and inform her tactics for her NWSL team this season. She said, one day in the offseason, I was writing things into ChatGPT like, what is Seattle Reign's identity? And it would spurt it out. And I was like, I don't know if that's true or not. Harvey told the Soccerish podcast. And then Harvey said, I put in, what formation should you play to beat NWSL teams? And it spurted out every team in the league and what formation you should play. And for two teams, it went, you should play a back five. So I did. No joke. That's why I did it. Now, there was understandably a lot of reaction to this admission. I think that this is the mark of a smart coach. I think that this is a mark of a smart person, in that she recognized that there was this tool. And yes, it's still evolving, but it's evolving at the speed of light or the speed of electricity, depending on how you look at it. But she wanted to utilize it to make her decisions more informed. And therefore, the way she looked at it, to make her decisions that much better. Now, we all know that whatever artificial intelligence and whatever ChatGPT spits out is only as good as the data that puts in and the history of that data that they have. But again, she recognized that it's always been, when it comes to coaching and managing, about small margins and how can you get an edge. And if she thought that in this moment, this information that was going to come into her was valuable and worthwhile and was going to give her an edge, you're damn right she's going to use it. And I guarantee you that she is not the only coach or club out there that is using this. So, Mosse, with that said, what did we decide to do over here at the State of the Union?
So we speculated as to if Mauricio Pochettino took this approach with the U.S. men's national team, what would that spit out? And ChatGPT has the U.S. men playing in a 4-2-3-1 with Matt Turner in goal, Chris Richards and Cameron Carter-Vickers at center back, Dest and Jedi as the fullbacks. In the midfield, Adams and McKennie sitting, Gio as the 10, Pulisic and Way on the wings, and Flo Balogun up top. And then they've also got some subs, Slonina in goal, Scally and Miles Robinson at the back, Cardoso and Mosse in the midfield, Pepe, Luna, Tillman, Brendan Aronson as attacking players. They've even got like tactical explanations of why they picked certain players. So fascinating stuff.
It is amazing. A couple things that stood out to me. One, your friend Matt Turner, who I know you've said you think is going to pip in the end, but it is, I think, right now Matt Freese's job to lose. And ChatGPT not only didn't start him, but didn't even have him coming off the bench. And again, we recognize that there are injuries that it doesn't pick up on, but this is still a fun little exercise to see ultimately who it comes. And ChatGPT almost acting like what a normal coach would do in recognizing, I'm going to hedge my bets with the person that has experience, that has been there before, that is composed, all the things that it said. It doesn't know about CCV's injury and all of that. Again, it was interesting that it had it playing in a back four. We know that this team has only recently switched to a back three, back five, whatever you want to call it. So maybe that data hasn't formulated enough where ChatGPT would have that as part of its evaluation going forward. Gio Reyna, who we know is completely on the outside going in, AI still believes that Gio Reyna is of value, and not only of value, but he's even starting him here.
Can we conclude that ChatGPT is a Euro snob?
Yes.
Matt Turner played in Europe, just came back, and then every other starter is a European-based player. They've got no love for Diego Luna or anybody like that, Christian Roldan.
Now, Mosse, let's take this a little bit further as we end this show here. I was joking, half joking when I talked about what you do, and whether it's the incredible writing that you do, or the incredible research that you do. And now with the press of a button, a lot of this can be done, and obviously done a whole lot easier and faster than in the past. And we've already talked about your incredible mind. Has this incredible computer of a mind that you have started to think about the possibilities and started to incorporate this into what you are doing going forward?
My days are numbered, my friend. I've started to think about my future career. No, but seriously, if you read articles about the shift that occurred in newspapers when the internet came into being. Yep. In every newspaper, you used to have a guy in the office who just knew random stuff that you could ask questions about. And then the advent of the internet rendered that guy obsolete because you can then just Google and look up. So, yeah, I mean, society goes through these shifts, and then with AI, it's even elevated, yeah.
Well, when I first saw the story about Lauren Harvey over there with Seattle, my point was, and I responded over on X, that this is all going to even out and that everybody is going to have this at their disposal. And so you're going to be back to what the human beings can suss through this. And yes, they're making more educated decisions, but ultimately they're still making decisions. And they might be decisions that on the face of it, you would never do. And ChatGPT or whoever you're using would say, no, this is just not the right decision. But that gets into human gut feeling, which is not something that a machine can do. It can approximate it, but it's not something that ultimately a machine can do. And so I think there will be still opportunities. Yes, the opportunities will change. The responsibilities will change. Even the names of the jobs will change. But I still think that there is going to be room and necessity and value in the human element of sports going forward.
Can AI spit out a podcast rundown? Is Sean Sullivan in any kind of trouble?
100%. It can do it. So then it remains to be seen. All right, well, is it better than others can do it? And someone would say, yeah, it's really, really good. And when you see some of the stuff that it can do, that's that epiphany of like, holy crap, this is incredible what they are able to do. But again, if everybody's able to do that, then the bar has been raised, but everybody's on the same bar then. So now what's separating us? Well, maybe it ultimately still comes down to the flesh and bone. Maybe it still comes down to the heart. Maybe it still comes down to the human mind being able to, in those little margins, do something that others can't. And I think the pendulum will swing back, especially when I have kids and that generation. I think that they will crave humanity, real humanity, in the same way that things are cyclical and parachute pants or high-waisted jeans or whatever. I think that craving for this next generation of real human contact, real human interaction, and just real human beings being a part of what they do on a consistent basis, I think that will become much more attractive going forward.
By the way, as long as we're talking women's soccer, I mentioned the U17 Men's World Cup earlier, the U17 Women's World Cup going on right now in Morocco. We're at the semifinal stage. Brazil, North Korea, Netherlands versus Mexico.
Ooh, look at you. Under what? What are we looking at?
Under 17 women's.
Okay, well, there's hope for your Brazilian team when it comes to the future.
Hey, the U.S. went out to the Netherlands in the round of 16. Remember, when the U.S. crashed out early in the 2023 World Cup, we heard a lot of chatter that, the youth results the last few years have been poor, so this had been coming. Now, the U.S. with Emma Hayes won the Olympic gold medal. They look to be back on track. But it is strange that, for whatever reason, at youth level, the U.S. women don't dominate the same way they do at senior level.
I mean, if I'm going to take one or the other... All right. Well, we've figured out that we may or may not have jobs going forward, but it's been a hell of a run, Mosse. I've enjoyed it. For those that, by the way, are watching, you will see that we again, I mentioned this on the last show. We've started to implement some new graphics and a new aesthetic here. There's a soccer ball involved, so that there's no confusion as to what this podcast is really about. So you'll see our mic flags here. These are just kind of generic Fox mic flags where we're getting SOTU. New mic flags and everything like that. So we're making some adjustments as we go on. But you know what's going to stay the same? The human beings involved. These two human beings in front of the camera and all the wonderful men and women and human beings that we have, allegedly, human beings behind the camera that make us look so good. Anything before we go?
That's it.
All right. Keep downloading and reviewing and subscribing and doing all the different things that you do. Keep smashing that button out there. All right, up and down, double fisting, left and right. When it comes to the old YouTube channel, smash it. Subscribe. The old Spotify and Apple and all the different things that you do there. We'll talk to you again later on this week. And until then, and as always, my friends, size the dead.